Windy and the Lost Key, A Christmas Story. By Harry Brown and A. M. Brown. Chapter 1, The Adventure Begins. The adventure began in the early hours of one Christmas morning. It was 2 o'clock in the morning when the two sisters woke up. Marie, who was a light sleeper, was feeling giddy with excitement at the thought of Father Christmas visiting with all their presents, so excited that she had not been able to eat all her dinner the previous night. Unfortunately, they had to share a bedroom, mainly because Debbie didn't like sleeping on her own. She snored and talked in her sleep, too. Often, they kept each other awake, laughing and giggling until Mom or Dad came in to tell them off. When they went to bed the night before our story, they had really tried to stay awake, but after having a very busy Christmas Eve, going to see Father Christmas at the local department store in town, they had both fallen asleep, as soon as their heads had touched their pillows. Now, awake again, they wondered if Father Christmas had been to their house yet. Excited to see what he had brought them, the sisters got out of bed, put on their slippers and crept down the stairs, remembering to step over the creaky floorboard, as they didn't want to disturb their parents who were sleeping soundly in the bedroom next door. They could hear their dad snoring, so were quietly confident they were safe from being caught. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, they crept along the hallway and stood inside the doorway to the playroom.
"I don't think he's been yet. It might be too early,"
whispered Marie, as she walked into the playroom, closely followed by her sister, who was holding onto the back of Marie's nightdress. Then, the two girls heard something strange.
"What's that noise?"
whispered Marie, looking around.
"It sounds like someone is crying,"
replied Debbie, trying to see where the noise was coming from. The playroom was a large rectangular room with mismatched wooden furniture. The floor was laminated and the walls were painted in an eggshell blue. The room was lit by 2 wall lamps. Overall, it had a fairy tale-like look to it. In one corner of the playroom next to the rocking chair, near the doll's house, sat a rag doll facing the wall. She had long blonde hair which she wore in pigtails tied with a shiny pink ribbon, a red dress with white spots, and the reddest, shiniest shoes with a shiny black buckle right at the center. She was crying, and the closer the girls got to her, the louder her crying became. Big fat tears were rolling down her red cheeks, splashing onto her spotted dress. At first, they didn't notice what was lying in her lap. As they tiptoed closer, they saw it was a little white sausage dog with pointy ears. It looked very dirty and frightened, and was shaking nervously as it saw them watching him.
"Who are you, and why are you crying?"
asked Marie shyly. The doll slowly turned around to face them and, still holding the dog in her arms, jumped up with a start and looked at the two sisters.
"My name is Katie and I have fallen off Father Christmas's sleigh,"
said the little doll, still crying big, fat tears.
"Please stop crying,"
said Debbie, giving Katie her favorite handkerchief out of her pajama pocket. She reached out and began stroking the little dog gently, as he was still shaking too.
"How on earth did you manage to fall off Father Christmas's sleigh?"
asked Marie.
"This little dog was blown off the sleigh by a very strong wind. I tried to hold onto him, but I fell off myself,"
said Katie through her tears, as she cuddled her newfound friend and tried to wipe her tears away with Debbie's handkerchief at the same time.
"When I saw your friendly-looking house, I managed to squeeze us both in through your playroom window. I hope you don't mind." "What is the little dog's name?"
asked Debbie.
"I don't know,"
said Katie.
I've tried to ask him, but he hasn't made a sound since he fell off the sleigh and I picked him up.
Then we shall give him a name,
said Marie bossily.
Because he was blown off the sleigh by a strong wind, let's call him Windy. Do you like your new name, Windy?
Asked Marie, gently stroking the still frightened dog.
Windy can't answer you,
said Katie in a sad voice.
Why not?
Asked Marie.
Because he has lost his bark,
replied Katie.
Lost his bark?
Cried Debbie in surprise, starting to laugh.
Whoever heard of a dog losing his bark? Well, you see, Debbie, Windy is a clockwork dog, and when he fell off the sleigh, he lost the key that winds him up. It was carried away with the wind and I couldn't catch it, so until his key is found, he will not be able to bark or make any noise at all,
explained Katie sadly. Windy nodded his head in sorrowful agreement. His hearing was working fine and he had thankfully stopped shaking.
But how do we get him another key?
Asked Marie.
Can we go and buy one?
There is only one way, I'm afraid,
said
Windy.
Katie.
Must be taken back to Toyland so that we can ask the toy maker for another key from his workshop. How do we get to Toyland?
Asked Debbie in a disbelieving voice, secretly not sure she believed in Toyland, even though she was talking to a doll and a clockwork dog.
By magic,
replied Katie wistfully.
That's silly. I don't believe in magic,
scoffed Debbie, rather rudely, realizing how silly that sounded.
If you don't believe me, I can show you right now,
Katie told her. She began rubbing one of her red shoes with her left hand, and using her right hand, pointed a finger in Debbie's direction. In an instant, Debbie started to rise slowly into the air and floated all around the playroom, her slippers barely missing the books and toys on the bookshelves. The little white dog was so afraid that he quickly scampered into the doll's house and peeped through a window to watch the flying little girl.
Now, do you believe in magic?
Laughed Katie, looking up at Debbie.
You look like a flying canary in your yellow pajamas,
said Marie.
Please let me down. I do believe in magic now, I really do,
yelled Debbie, still flying round the playroom, having to cover her eyes with her hands. Katie clicked her fingers, which broke the magic spell. Debbie gently and slowly came sailing to the floor, landing rather more heavily than she would have liked on some floor cushions in the corner of the playroom. She sat there for a second, feeling quite bewildered.
All right, now that you have shown us that you can do magic, please tell us how we can get to Toyland so we can help Windy,
said Marie, as Debbie, having recovered from flying, went to the doll's house, picked up Windy and gave him a kiss on his nose.
A trip in a golden coach is what will get us to Toyland,
said Katie, looking around the playroom for what she needed. She saw the sisters' very tall Christmas tree sitting in the corner, all lit up and sparkling with baubles and tinsel.
Do you see those fairy lights hanging on your Christmas tree?
Asked Katie, pointing towards the tree.
Yes, I see them,
answered Marie.
They are shaped like golden coaches. My dad bought them for my mom last Christmas as a present.
Well, watch them very carefully,
said Katie, as once again she rubbed her red shoe with her left hand, and pointed with her right hand towards one of the golden coaches hanging on the tree. There was a flash of light, like a sparkler on bonfire night being lit, and suddenly there appeared out of nowhere, a full-sized golden coach in the middle of the playroom.
Oh my goodness!
Shouted Debbie and Marie at the same time. Then they covered their mouths with their hands, suddenly realizing that they were being loud. The golden coach filled the room. It looked old, disused, and dilapidated.
I really hope you can change that back again,
Debbie said, looking unsure all of a sudden.
Of course I can. But for now, we shall use it to get us to the city of Arbron where Toyland is,
said Katie, inviting Marie and Debbie to climb inside.
How can we go anywhere in that?
Grumbled Debbie.
It looks like it will collapse at any minute, and it has no horses to pull it, and everyone knows that horses pull coaches. Also, we haven't had our breakfast yet,
she moaned, rubbing her tummy.
Anything is possible on Christmas Day with a little bit of magic,
said Katie, as she magically rubbed her shoes, and a mug of hot chocolate and biscuits suddenly appeared in both of the girls' hands. They greedily ate the biscuits and drank the hot chocolate. Just as they had finished their drinks, the coach began to lift very slowly off the floor, wobbling a little as it got its balance. Suddenly, with a whoosh, it went flying through the open playroom window. Either the window had gotten bigger, or the coach had gotten smaller, neither sister was sure.
If you enjoyed this story, you can find more in this channel. Please like and subscribe. Thank you and have a good time.